what must happen in us when we begin to reach out and touch our hearts and minds with exercises, with activities that bring us more truly in touch with the innate power of our beings, much of which we tend to not denigrate as much as just don't use. We bury it under a pile of stuff. And the awakening game is kind of unburying ourselves from stuff. In addition to all the lovely virtues that the Buddha mentioned, part of their culture also suggests you pay deep attention to what they call hindrances. What are the hindrances to the life of consciousness? What keeps us from being able to reach out and touch people with an authentic expression of our soul that their souls might respond to it as well? And they list a whole bunch of them. It's kind of like the cognitive shrinks and the Buddhists got together a long time ago and brought it together. But one of the most common hindrances to the kind of clarity that can reach out and touch a soul with the kind of power that's demonstrated in that story is to be done with the business of not paying attention to the invitation to grace contained in the 6th chapter of Matthew, the 34th verse. Anybody remember that one? It's one of the most profound. Oh, you're laughing. I said, yeah, right. This is unity. Well, it's served me a lot. And it's just another example of how the spiritual life is not a la-la, woo-woo kind of experience. It's hardcore, what's going on 1 inch behind my eyebrows, and is this helpful? Is this helpful to sustaining a sense of peace and serenity and lightheartedness and celebration? Or is what's going on here guaranteed to set me up for a little bit of suffering, emotionally speaking? The major ones is a tendency we have to do the same kind of thing I did. Oh, it's been a number of Thanksgivings ago. We were setting up for the Thanksgiving communion service. How many have been to one of our communion services? Some of you have. And we had to go out and get some grape juice for the simulated wine and little bread and all that kind of thing. So Light said, I'll run down and get the wine, get the grape juice. I said, sure, honey. That was about 5:30 in the evening. The exercise was to begin at 7:30. And I didn't think anything. I went about cutting up little chunks of bread and getting everything set up. And I looked at my watch, and it was about 6:30. And no Light. She hadn't returned. That's unusual, because the grocery store was only 5 or 6 blocks down the road, that Bilo, right there on 25. So I thought, well, and I went back, and then it got to be about 10 minutes to 7. Oh, now, anybody have that same kind of experience? You have a tendency at about that time to start using your thinking mind to create an infinite variety of catastrophic possibilities. In the course of the next 10 minutes, I had her kidnapped, held hostage by terrorists, flat tire, that was the least lethal of my fantasies, terrible wreck. And then it was about that time that an ambulance went down Hendersonville Road, heading toward Bilo. Oh, I jumped in my car, ran down the Bilo. Sure, I was going to encounter her car in some state of smashed upness. No, she wasn't there. I drove back to the church, and of course Light was there, pouring wine in little wine glasses. She said, where have you been? So rather not discuss it right now. There's the dance. Now, if everyone would read Matthew 6:34, read it maybe 3 or 4 times a day, and then you begin to catch yourself when you're doing stuff like that, slipping out of the secure reality of this moment. Because this one I can attest to, right here, right now. If anything happens within this moment, I am energized, I am powerful, I am capable of responding to it because it's real. It's something I can reach out and touch and taste or smell or hold. But if it's happening only up here, the only resource I have for dealing with this is to subject it to the scrutiny of a consciousness that's at least a little bit wedded to some truth, a truth that will set me free from the imposition of my tendency to slip into the future and create catastrophic possibilities and then fall into the thrall of that kind of suffering. How many of you have experienced a little anxiety between now and last night, for example? Sure, we create it all the time. Anxiety about our lives. My God, there's a mountain, there's a tidal wave of anxiety going on out there in the economic domain now, in the universal economic domain, in each country's economic domain, and all the way down to each person's economic domain. This concern, and take ye therefore no thought for the morrow. Okay, and so one of the affirmations that I found very, very helpful and profound is every time I experience myself creating anxiety, and notice how I phrase that. Each time I find myself creating anxiety, I'm creating anxiety. It's not doing it to me. I just take a deep breath of it. I say, not so. Not so. Okay, not so. What's the truth? Well, I'm standing in the middle aisle of the church. I mean, it can slip in any time. I can be doing a talk, and while the talk is coming out of one neural pathway, the other neural pathway is creating, Jesus, I hope this goes across pretty good. You know, we do that simultaneously with, being active in this moment. You can create a setup piece for anxiety. I mean, it's nutsy. You got it covered? Good. What is going on here? I'm saying so much. You know what that's called? That's called practicing disaster. We have an affirmation for that. I shall solve no problem before it's time. We stole that from a wine commercial. But it fits. It's apropos. I shall solve no problem before it's time. Okay? Now, to use it, now, how many of us have gone through major portions of our life just like that? Always waiting for the shoe to drop, the balloon to break, with terrible speculation to actually occur. How many? What's required? So far, so good. Okay, I don't know how long it's going to take for this thing. But when it does go, you know what you're going to do, don't you? Yeah, you know. That's... You see how easy that was? You're in the now, you're watching it, it goes off, you go, relaxation rebound occurs within 3 seconds. Oh, that's a crazy preacher doing something. Okay, and you're in and out of it in 20, 30 seconds. There's no, as opposed to walking around for hours or days or weeks or months or years waiting for the balloon to break. The truth of your reality up to that moment is, there's a man with a beard messing around with a balloon. Beyond that, we know nothing. Peace be with you.